Good evening and welcome to the Monday, September 15th, 2025 session of the Lakes Forest City Council. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Certainly. Honorable Mayor Tack.
Here.
Alderman Novit.
Here.
Alderman Clemens. Here. Alderman Notes is absent right now. Alderman Powers.
Here.
Alderman Levert.
Here.
Alderman Bothfeld.
Here.
Alderman Weber.
Here.
Alderman Walter.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Very good. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First item on tonight's agenda is comments by mayor, and I'm going to start with a resolution honoring the 150th anniversary of the Church of St. Mary. The Church of St. Mary community is blessed with many dedicated volunteers, including a number of current and former mayors and city council members, all of whom embody a life of service. There's a few of us here tonight. It's like an OCIA meeting for me. At this time, I would like to read a resolution honoring the 150th anniversary of the Church of St. Mary. Whereas the clergy and parishioners of the Church of St. Mary, a Catholic evangelizing parish of the Archdiocese of Chicago, are celebrating 150 years of grace in 2025, and whereas since its humble beginnings as a mission in a little log church in western Lake Forest in 1844, and by 1875, when a small group of families formed the new parish of St. Mary, a white frame church was built at the corner of Illinois and Green Bay roads, to the impressive structures that stand today, as the flourishing parish and clergy have contributed continually and substantially to spiritually enriching the needs of many residents of Lake Forest and beyond. Whereas the Church of St. Mary has always been an integral part of the community by its faith and ecumenical spirit, and whereas we rejoice with the Church of St. Mary as they celebrate with gratitude and grace, we urge the citizens across our community to join in the celebration and activities. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lake Forest that the City Council, on behalf of all of the residents of the City of Lake Forest, congratulate and extend all good wishes to the clergy and members of the Church of St. Mary Parish on the joyful occasion of the 150th anniversary of the founding of the parish. Be it further resolved that this resolution be appropriately inscribed and conveyed to the Church of St. Mary and spread upon the permanent record of the Lake Forest City Council this 15th day of September 2025. May I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Will you all come up? Who will be ceremonially receiving?
And then I'll move to
Look at my finger. Okay.
I'll slide right over and the left City Council stand behind you.
Nancy, you need a little step up. Heels. I do too, but you've got heels on.
I am short, okay? Want me to stand on the chair?
You're good.
This side.
Very good. Would any of you like to make any comments? Am I up at the dais?
Oh, wait, it's in front of the microphone.
Thank you. Mayor Tack and members of the Lake Forest City Council, on behalf of the Church of St. Mary in Lake Forest and our entire team who has participated in the Church of St. Mary 150th Anniversary Planning Committee, I want to extend our heartfelt gratitude for this resolution, recognizing our 150th Year of Grace celebration. It's an immense honor to receive this acknowledgement from the city, which inspires us to continue our work with even greater passion and commitment. We are proud to be a part of such a vibrant and supportive city, such as Lake Forest. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I encourage you to stay for the rest of the meeting. However, if you don't want to, this is a good time to check out. Okay.
Wise choice.
Okay, very good. The next item I have is a discussion about parking, something that I think we'll be talking about a fair amount in the next few years. The comprehensive assessment of parking in the Central Business District is underway, and the online survey is open. Please take a moment to share your feedback about parking regulations and how we can improve. Also, join city staff for Park Here, a community conversations on Thursday, September 18th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in Market Square, or Friday, September 19th from 12 to 2 in the City Hall parking lot. Business conversations for business owners and employees will take place on Tuesday, September 16th from 12 to 2 in City Hall, and Wednesday on September 17th from 5 to 7. Your feedback's important, so we hope to see lots of people there. Thank you. All right, next item is comments by city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. Good evening. I have two items under my report. First, please, under our community spotlight, to invite Ryan London, the president and CEO of Lake Forest Open Lands Association, to join us here this evening. I think most people know Ryan, but for those who don't, he's been with Open Lands for over 20 years now, including about 4 years as president and CEO. It's a good time to have him here because it's been a very busy year for Open Lands, and so Ryan's here to share both some stories of recent initiatives and successes, and also to highlight some upcoming programming and events that are being held here in the community. And so with that, I'll welcome Ryan to the podium, and he's very happy to entertain questions after his presentation.
Thank you, Jason. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Ryan London, President and CEO of Lake Forest Open Lands, and on behalf of our Board of Governors, our talented staff, and dedicated volunteers, thank you for this opportunity to provide the community with an update on Lake Forest Open Lands. For nearly 60 years, it has been our privilege to be our community's independently funded conservation and education organization devoted to preserving and stewarding our incredible natural local landscapes and ensuring that all generations are welcome and fully able to experience nature. This summer, our full day programs were so popular last summer that we offered a whole summer's worth of full day programs for children ages 5 through 15. For the 5th consecutive year, we collaborated with our partners at the Trickster Cultural Center to offer a Native American camp experience where students were able to have a summer camp offering storytelling, music, team sports, history, and art. These programs provide youth with the opportunity to disconnect from technology and immerse themselves in the natural world. As more and more studies continue to show, time spent in nature is beneficial to the mental, the physical, and the emotional well-being of our youth. But we've always known this at Lake Forest Open Lands. We also sent students on a week-long trip to Yellowstone, as well as another trip canoeing in remote northern Ontario. And so that top left picture here, you'll see our Yellowstone trip. That's the 10th year that we've run that program. In the top right photo, you see Sarah Jantz. She's our new community engagement coordinator. She's one of 3 new positions that we've added to Lake Forest Open Lands since I last came and presented. And then in the bottom left, we have one of our adventure camps going on a bike trek through the Middle Fork Savannah. And in the bottom right, we have AJ Morris, our environmental educator, shares a worm find with tots on the trails, and that's a program for 18 months to 3-year-old campers. For adults, every Monday in September, we are hosting a guided bird hike at a different nature preserve. And every Tuesday in September is sunset yoga over at our headquarters at Waukegan and Deer Path. Every Tuesday in October and November, we host our Tuesdays on the Trail, which is a guided midday hike through one of the preserves. And then on October 2nd, we're co-hosting with the city the Go Lake Forest hike at our Skokie River Nature Preserve. Of course, all are welcome anytime to walk, play, or embrace a quiet moment of nature. At any of our nature preserves, they're open 365 days a year and over 20 miles of trails. Our brand new website has a fully searchable and sortable calendar that's easy to use from your phone, so you can find an engagement program in nature exactly the way you want it. The second Friday of every month, we host our conservation cocktails at our headquarters at Melody Farm. These evenings offer an opportunity to learn more about a conservation topic from an expert. October will be Ed Ferner of Mariani Landscape, where participants will learn how to make winter displays from plant material already found in their own yards. And November will be Tom Smith of the Brothertown Indian Nation, a retired stewardship ecologist of 34 years with Lake County Forest Preserves. Tom will be talking about indigenous burning practices in Lake County. I have only mentioned a sliver of our fall program opportunities, and I know this is very small font. New this year, we are offering a seasonal community-supported conservation share where nature lovers can purchase or give as a gift access to all of our fall programs, including our popular family campfires. The fall share this year includes 45 different programs through the end of November. September in Lake Forest means our final goodbye to summer, and I did see a Halloween decoration on my way over here this evening, and the start of the fall as we host our annual fundraiser, Bagpipes and Bonfire, taking place on Sunday, September 28th from 4 to 7 p.m. at our Middle Fork Farm Nature Preserve. This year's event chairs are Nancy and Ron Fletcher, and this one-of-a-kind, multi-generational family favorite event invites our entire community to join us for live music. The evening draws to a close with 100 bagpipers marching in procession, followed by the lighting of the bagpiper. We hope you will all join us. Tartans are optional, and tickets may be purchased on our website. Saturday, October 25th, is our co-hosted with the City of Lake Forest native tree and shrub sale. The shopping cart for pre-orders actually opens next Monday on the 22nd. We will have experts on hand answering questions and help folks find the correct plants for their yard. This winter, we'll be launching a new pilot program at no cost to participants. This green gardening group will be a cohort of 8 gardeners interested in establishing a native plant garden in their yard for the first time. This group will be facilitated by experts throughout the winter and spring to ensure they have the knowledge and support needed to establish their own native gardens next spring. Lake Forest Open Lands will also be offering a stipend of $150 towards plant material at our spring plant sale. October means the start of our Eco Crew Saturday volunteer workdays, which run through May. We also host our weekly volunteer workdays known as Adventures in Restoration every Wednesday morning. November will also be the start of our fall prescribed burn season. Our healthy local landscapes here are fire dependent, meaning that historically they've thrived on the occasional natural fires to help release seeds, help clear the understory, and without this fire, actually some species wouldn't even be able to exist. Jason mentioned some projects. I'm going to share an upcoming project. So last April, Lake Forest Open Lands was selected by National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration for full funding of our next project at the Green Nature Preserve at McCormick Ravine, titled Advancing Innovative Great Lakes Habitat Solutions and Building Community, Coastal, and Cultural Resilience. One of only 2 projects selected in all of the Great Lakes, one of only 15 projects selected nationally, and we're building on the success of our award-winning and published work during the first two phases of our restoration and public access efforts at McCormick Ravine. We will be restoring the stretches of Darramidi Ravine not covered by the 2015 Army Corps Restoration Project, as well as a significant coastal and nearshore and bluff habitat project. This summer, we completed our first accessible trail in our Skokie River Nature Preserve, the Jamie Field River Walk Trail, which is open to the public. This trail and boardwalk system has accessible entrances from both Laurel Ave and Westminster. And then we also completed and had a grand opening at our Carruthers Nature Preserve off of Wesley Road, just west of Ridge Road, where we have a boardwalk complex, a series of new accessible trails. Actually, all of the trails there are accessible, and an accessible fishing pier. We also have Council Ring, where we're running programs as well. And then just a few weeks ago, we started across the street, so on the south side of Wesley, at our oldest West Side Preserve, West Skokie Nature Preserve, making all the trails over there accessible and replacing the boardwalks. To be determined on completion, we have some out-of-state contractors, but we're anticipating either late this year or early next spring. So whatever your interest, there is something for everyone at Lake Forest Open Lands, and we truly focus on the everyone part. I welcome and encourage everyone interested in assisting us to call, email, or tag us in a social media post, and we'll plant you right where you belong. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. London? Alderman Weber.
Thank you, Mayor. Ryan, this was great. Thank you so much. I just so happened to be involved in my son's Cub Scout pack and was curious to know if Lake Forest Open Lands ever has any special programs or suggestions for the Scouts. I know the Lake County Open Lands, they often have different things on their website, like the maple syrup hikes and such. And so I thought I would see if Lake Forest has anything specific and available.
Absolutely. We love working with our Scouts. Actually, one of those 3 new hires is our new Trails and Facilities Manager, who was the former director of Camp Makajuan. And so we love our Eagle Scouts. They are instrumental in achieving all of the infrastructure that we have out in the preserves, and he has a ton of Eagle Scout background. I would suggest maybe we follow up offline, and I can connect you with our Director of Engagement, Julia Lund.
That would be great.
Appropriate
Thank you.
fit. Sure.
Very good. Alderman Clemmons.
Brian, thanks for coming, and congratulations on getting, you got the final approval on the REEF grant, right?
We have approval. I don't have an executed a grant agreement yet, but I got some good news last week.
Okay, so it's moving in the right direction.
Yes, we're next in the queue.
So we walk the dog evenings, and usually around dusk. And this year, we've been able to go out without any mosquito lotion. They're pretty rare. I haven't seen very many mosquitoes, and I don't, maybe it's our neighborhood and maybe not in somebody else's, but there's pretty good evidence there aren't too many insects around anymore. You can comment on that. And it does lead me to one question. Have you done a bat count this year? So
We have. So we do acoustical monitoring for the bats. Actually, I was in a meeting down at the Field Museum today talking about expanding that to insect acoustical monitoring. I think it's a great point about the lack of mosquitoes. I think the other data point that everybody can relate to very easily is the windshield test, how often you have to clean off your windshield as you're driving around. It's a lot less than I remember when I was a kid. And when I was here last September, I actually had a chart on the bug decline. It's personally very concerning. You know, they're the building blocks of everything. So, excuse me, the best thing that everybody can do is plant a native plant, whether it's an oak tree in their backyard or a couple of wildflowers. Our native insects are actually adapted to pollinate and feed on those plants, and then that has a ladder effect with the birds and all the other wildlife. I don't know the answer for the mosquito ghosting this year, though.
it's nice going without them. Thank you.
Sure.
Very good. Other questions, comments? Very good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you, Ryan. My second item for this evening is part of our continuing series, I'm happy to introduce for the second to last time, no pressure, Director or Engineering Superintendent Byron Coots to provide an update on the Deer Pass Streetscape and Bank Lane projects, both highlighting recent progress and spotlighting what's to come.
This will be the second one, assuming we're on schedule, Jason, which we are, which I'll tell everyone about. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. As Manager Wisha just mentioned, going to do the update on Deer Pass Streetscape and Bank Lane. As you could probably see walking in tonight, there's been a lot of work the last few weeks to a month, especially even the last week, so that's very exciting. We're going to start with our obligatory construction video here. Let's see, just press it once more. I will narrate it as it goes. Overall view of Deer Path, pouring the concrete, the crosswalks. There's bricks on the crosswalks in Western, laying some conduit, working on the cobble curbs. The brick crosswalks again. Bank Lane. Our crew is working on some landscape removal here at City Hall. Bank Lane, working on irrigation, some concrete work. And then Bank Lane, working on the masonry wall. All right. So for upcoming work, I'm going to start for Deer Path. The Oakwood intersection, that closure started today. It's going to go through September 28th. So this is basically the same thing we did on Western earlier in the month. We're closing it for those 2 weeks to basically remove all of the crosswalks, pour a concrete base, let that cure, and then put the bricks back on top of that. Later in the month or into early October, we'll also do crosswalks at Bank Lane and Forest as well. Pavement grinding will occur later this week, most likely Thursday. So that's for grinding from Western to Oakwood. And then the first layer of asphalt is going to actually go down on Friday. Into next week and the few weeks after that, you're going to start seeing Parkway brick installation. So if you walk on the corridor right now, you may wonder why there's a 2-foot gap in between the sidewalk and the curb. It's for this decorative bricks that are going to go in there that are going to kind of tie into the crosswalk. So those will be going in fairly soon. There's still some remaining sidewalk that needs to be poured at some of the ADA corners. There's a masonry wall that will be going in for seating at Rosati's. They actually just started on the demolition of that today. The light pole foundations have been installed for a while now, but the actual fixtures, the poles themselves will be installed here in the coming weeks. And then remaining irrigation. Overall, we're very confident with the October 31st date. Once we get through this month, a lot of the core part of the projects, the main contractor's work is going to be done, and then going into October, it'll be mostly paving and some other kind of decorative elements. In terms of the business grant applications, that program, there's 5 grant applicants or applications so far that finance has received. And then now going into a little bit of communications. Here are just some examples of some of the communications we've done the last few weeks. We've really ramped it up as of recent, just similar to how the work has ramped up itself. We started a weekly construction update, actually passing them out to the businesses a few weeks ago, which I think the businesses really appreciated. You can see here the bagel store has it on their window. So I think that's gone very well, but just in general with so much disruption out there right now, we're really just focusing on maintaining the sidewalk routes, making sure that the businesses are aware of that and it's clear to anyone that's walking through the corridor. Now switching to Bank Lane. The last few weeks, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, earlier on, we had pedestrians walking in the middle. We've shifted them to the outside. We removed that concrete. So They've been shifted there, I think, for a couple weeks. Later this week or next week, well, actually, the cobble curb was poured today. The remaining cobble curb just across from La Coloniale. Probably early next week, the concrete base course will be poured. That's why we have the middle closed. So once they get that poured, then they can actually start laying bricks on top of that. In addition to the bricks for the actual roadway, they have to do the bricks for the masonry wall as well. And in terms of schedule, we're also confident with this one that we will have it finished before October 31st. With that, I can take any questions.
Go ahead, Weber.
Thank you. Just in some prior discussion today with Oakwood now being closed for 2 weeks, there's been some comments about the backup of cars that are trying to head west on Deer Path during the school dismissal time. So it can take up to 20 minutes to come from St. Mary's parking lot to get to DPM because it's very difficult to get through that light. So I would suggest perhaps maybe we look into some traffic control to allow more cars than what the current traffic light allows because people can't get their kids to practice.
Yeah, that's something we can look at. I know we talked about the timing of this light earlier on in the project, and anytime you change the timing of a light, like you may fix one direction and then you may adversely affect a different traffic direction, but that's something we can look at.
Because now that's the only way to go.
Yeah.
You can't take Oakwood to Deer Path to try to go just
Okay.
straight west. Now it's the left hand, and what happens is the cars just keep going through the light, so you can't even sneak up to make a turn. So I would just highly suggest that, and if we can just put a little change in for 2 weeks, that would be good. Thank you.
Alderman Powers.
Byron, one suggestion also with Oakwood. Does it make more sense to close Oakwood off at Illinois? Because what's happening this morning is everybody drives down there, realizes it's closed, and then has to cut through the Shell station to turn around to come back out. And it might be a simpler way just to prevent cars from coming in there anyway. Most of those businesses are service oriented, so it's not like there's retail locations with the exception of obviously the mini mart at the Shell station. Just something to consider. This morning at about 9:30, it was a little crazy with cars backing out, U-turning, and everything else, so.
Yeah, we had that same situation happen on Deer Path this morning, including myself, went into it. So we adjusted some signage, and we'll check for that as well.
Okay.
On Oakwood.
Thanks.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes my report for this evening.
Okay. At this time, we have an opportunity for citizens to address the city council on non-agenda items. Is there anyone that would like to please step forward and state your name and address if desired?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, and everyone else. Just a couple of poly-positive comments. Going back to August, the August 4th event was fabulous. Everything was greatly run, was very appreciative. And it was interesting to see how everybody adjusted to the new carnival layout. So that was kind of interesting and fun. And everybody I know had such a great time, so I'm just speaking for a few here. I wanted to especially thank the police and fire again, because they just do amazing jobs all the time. And of course, our Dana with her fabulous event information. I'm trying to think what else I know. I loved the coffee in the park too, so that was really nice, and I appreciated everybody turning up. So and also, not to be remiss, the new bicycle path is fabulous. So thank you, and thank you for all your hard work.
Very good. Well, thank you for your kind comments. All right, the next item is committee reports. We don't have any this evening. So we'll move on to items for omnibus vote consideration, of which there are 14. So as always, I will ask if the aldermen have any items they would like removed or taken separately. Please let me know after I've read all of the items. Item 1, approval of the July 21st, August 4th, 2025 City Council meeting minutes and Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025 City Council workshop minutes. Item 2, approval of the check register for the period of July 19th through August 31st, 2025. Item 3, appointment of an authorized agent for the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, IMRF. Item 4, consideration of a request to waive the fidelity bond requirement in connection with the holding of raffles in the city of Lake Forest for the Northwestern Medicine Lake Forest Health and Fitness, approval by motion. Item 5, consideration of an ordinance extending a food scrap curbside composting service franchise agreement between the city of Lake Forest and Waste Not Composting, first reading and if desired by the council, final approval. Item 6, authorize the office of the city manager to enter into a 2-year extended term power supply agreement with MC Squared Energy Services, LLC. Item 7, consideration of approval to renew agreement for enterprise resource management system software maintenance. Item 8, consideration of a resolution of authorization for an OSLAD grant program project at South Park. Item 9, approval of a purchase of 2 replacement police department vehicles to Carl Chevrolet in the amount of $111,000. Item 10, approval of a purchase of a replacement water and sewer section medium-sized utility truck to CIT Trucks chassis in the amount of $61,878, and Linco Equipment Sales hook, lift, and crane in the amount of $84,722 for a grand total cost of $146,600. Item 11, consideration of an ordinance approving a recommendation from the Historic Preservation Commission in support of granting a building scale variance for a mudroom addition and covered walkway at 920 Church Road, first reading and if desired by the City Council, final approval. Welcome. Alderman notes. Item 12, consideration of ordinances approving recommendations from the Zoning Board of Appeals for 920 Church Road, 927 Cherokee Road, and 375 East Westminster, first reading and if desired by the City Council, final approval. Item 13, consideration of a waiver of fees for plan review and permits for the Lake Forest Library Courtyard Restoration Project at 360 East Deer Path in the amount of $13,580, approval by motion. And finally, consideration of an ordinance amending the code provisions relating to utility facilities in the public rights of way. Waive first reading and grant final approval. Are there any items that the alderman would like removed or taken separately? Okay. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the 14 omnibus items as presented.
So moved. Second.
This will be a roll call vote.
Alderman.
Aye.
Alderman Clements.
Aye.
Alderman Notes.
Aye.
Alderman Powers.
Aye.
Alderman Levert.
Aye.
Alderman Bosfeld.
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Walder.
Aye.
8 yea, 0 nay. Motion carries.
Very good. We move on to old business, of which there is none this evening, followed by new business. The first item is consideration of an administrative directive establishing parameters for temporary installations by private parties on the greensward in Market Square. This will be presented by Catherine Cerniak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. About 2 weeks ago, at your workshop, you provided direction to staff to prepare an administrative directive to establish parameters for temporary installations in the Greensward in Market Square. The Greensward is owned by the city, and it is this central green area, the lawn, the walkways, the landscape beds, the fountain, and the surrounding hardscapes. So this directive pertains only to that area. The goal of the administrative directive is really twofold. One, to to provide, to really protect the Greensward, both to protect the grounds and to protect the ability for the public to use it safely, comfortably, without obstruction as passive open space. And second, it's really to provide a consistent set of parameters, realistic expectations, clear direction for staff so we know how to communicate with individuals or groups who request permission, and clear information for those groups and individuals. So really protection and preservation and consistency. The recommended parameters deal with aspects of use. The parameters do not limit which groups or which individuals, do not limit what the message is, but instead really address the process and the physical aspects of what private installations can look like. The process, we're suggesting that any requested installation be associated with a special event. We have an established special event permit process, and an installation could occur concurrently with that process. Based on input from the work session, we are suggesting that these requests need to be made 45 days in advance of any event. And at a suggestion of Alderman Bothfeld earlier today, that we also bookend that at the other end and say the request cannot be made more than 1 year in advance of the events. For instance, so a single group or individual could not say for the next 5 years on May 31st, I want to book the Greensward. So thank you for that suggestion. Duration. The duration of the installation would be the lesser of a total of 5 hours or for the duration of the event. Again, whichever is shorter. The installation would need to be surface mounted with sandbags or with bases, could not penetrate the lawn area or the hardscape or the landscape beds. The size, 10 feet in height. We do sometimes get requests to install open canopy tents. In fact, I just talked to Lake Forest College today about a family day at the college, and they'd like to do something in Market Square. And we talked about those tents that are 10 by 10, they're 10 feet tall with a 100 square foot footprint. So we really wanted to accommodate those types of tents. Monitoring. During the entire time that an installation is in place, an organizer of the event or a designee of the organizer would need to be in the Greensward on site. The frequency, on any particular day or any particular time, only one installation would be approved. So one group, one individual, we wouldn't have multiple installations in the Greensward at the same time. In addition, only one installation per year would be permitted per individual or per group. The approval would be based on essentially first come, first serve. The first complete application received for a particular date, a particular time, would be approved, assuming that all the parameters are satisfied. Documentation, the city would require submittal of a signed hold harmless, so that in the event the installation is damaged or someone gets hurt, that we do have a hold harmless in place. We would also require a certificate of insurance, similar to what we require for our special event process. So options before you tonight, by motion, approve the administrative directive as presented with the addition as suggested by Alderman Bothfeld. By motion, approve the administrative directive in some other form based on your discussion, or take no action. This is not a matter that has come to you from any board or commission, so it's really something that's before the council at your direction. You could choose not to act at all. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions for Director Cerniak? Alderman Notes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Kathy. A very thoughtful response to outline some of the considerations that we raised when we all talked about it at the finance meeting. A couple questions. with regard to the 5-hour time frame, was there any thought that that might be too short?
I think most of the events we see in Market Square, in the Greensward specifically, the 5 hours seems to cover it, whether it's yoga in the square or District 67 coming to sell some of their produce from their community gardens. So it seemed like 5 hours was the right, but there's no magic to that number.
And one of the other things we had talked about was a certain time frame that installations be down by a certain hour in the evening. Had any thought been to incorporating any element of that?
No. Now that you mentioned that, I think there was thought given to it, but there have been a couple events that go into the evening hours. Could we set a 9 p.m. end date? We could certainly do that at your direction.
Okay.
Or 9 or 10, whatever that time is.
And while I have the floor, I have just two last questions, if you can indulge me. For clarification, any event that the city would be involved in sponsoring, such as the Art League or the tree lighting ceremony at Thanksgiving, those are exempt from these provisions? Is that
Any event that is city-sponsored, any installations that are done by city crews are not covered by this. It would not be a private installation. Currently, the art fair is not a city-sponsored event, certainly because of the amount of support the city offers for that event. Those discussions are ongoing. But if that is not the case, then the art fair would need to abide by this policy as well. And for the most part, the art fair doesn't have installations in the Greensward. It's mostly, they go through a separate process for street obstruction. But any private group or individual would need to abide by these parameters.
Well, I only raise that because in the past, the Art League has used that center space, and I don't know why they haven't lately, but I only raise that as just a consideration that this could constrain an activity that the city really embraces.
And we are in discussions with them, really on a variety of fronts, again, because of the amount of support the city offers to that event.
Okay. And my last thing, thank you, is just the correction on a typo on on the second page of the presentation that was sent to us. You have 3.9 repeated, and I think it should be 3.10, which is your last point.
We will double check the numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Perfect. Other questions or comments? Alderman Clemmons.
Would setup time be included in the 5 hours, or would that be additional time they could have?
5 hours is the total.
Okay.
The duration of the event, the way it's written in the directive, is the duration of the event plus a half hour before and after, no greater than a total of 5 hours. And again, at your discretion, if 5 hours is too long, too short, if an evening end time should be added, we'll welcome that direction.
Alderman Weber.
Just offering some comments on those two items that have been brought up. I would support an 8-hour total that would include setup and takedown, as well as a cutoff time. Everything needs to be cleaned up by, say, 9 p.m., I think is reasonable.
Fair enough. Other questions or comments? Alderman Walther.
Well, just my comment is, I believe the best attribute of this policy is that it provides information to the public to make informed decisions about use of that space. So thank you very much. And I support the additional time as well as the maximum time in the evening.
Very good. Other questions, comments? Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment on the matter? Okay, so since we have some recommendations for modifications, those modifications being 8 hours and ending by 9 p.m., is that fair? I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consideration of the administrative directive establishing parameters for temporary installations by private parties on the Greensward in Market Square. Is there a motion to approve the directive with modifications?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Clemmons.
Aye.
Alderman Notes.
Aye.
Alderman Powers.
Aye.
Alderman Levert.
Aye.
Alderman Bosfeld.
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Walther.
Aye.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
8 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries with amended recommendation.
Is Alderman Bothwell's change in that?
Yes.
Okay. No, the 1 year advance.
1 year, the window, 1 year in advance.
So that is I just want to make sure that was captured. Okay.
Very good. Okay. The next item on the agenda is discussion of an award of bid to Ephraim Carlson Construction Incorporated for the Waveland Park Pavilion project in the amount of $1,277,500 to include a 5% contingency in the amount of $65,000 for a grand total cost of $1,342,500. This will be presented by Jim Lockfair, Assistant Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor Tack, members of City Council. Much like Kathy's last item, this was another topic that came before City Council at the workshop meeting on September 2nd, back again for potential action. And just to highlight really quickly the Waveland Park Pavilion project, before you this evening, you're seeing the existing 1975 building, and this project is specifically for the demolition and new construction of a new open-air pavilion. So just some quick background information. Project design formally began in June of 2024 after City Council approved of an architectural services agreement for the project. A few months later, as conceptual options were developed, we had 4 of them. We sought public input, working closely with the communications department on that process. It featured an open house as well as a community-wide survey. We did receive quite a bit of community input on this project with some common themes that were actually incorporated into final design. Couple weeks later, cost estimate of $950,000 was developed for CIP planning purposes about a year ago in fall of 2024. And I did, before I transition to the next slide, to review some bids we received on the project and the significant budget overage, just did want to take a moment to briefly describe that budget development process. And really, it starts with, even before we engage with a specific consultant, it starts with the request for proposal process. When we ask for architectural services, or for that matter, design engineering services, in our request for proposals, we have a specific line item under our scope of services. It's an actual deliverable that highlights in September is usually the date, is when we ask the consultants for that detailed estimate to go into the CIP. And we really stress the importance of that number to say it impacts the overall 5-year plan, not this project specifically, but we want a number we trust and rely on. In turn, as that number is being developed, we also are asking the consultant, where are you getting those numbers from? Are you calling your contractors? They maintain detailed databases of their other bid projects that they can reference, but we always ask to say, that's great, that's fine, markets change. Are you actually calling consultants to confirm pricing? So that's something we stress on every project, which in turn, when you have a project, and I'll go over this bid detail in a little bit more, where there's a significant budget overage, it's very frustrating from a staff standpoint. And again, right up at the top of the screen there, budget of $950,000. The table, I won't go through it all, but it highlights all the bids we received earlier this summer. The firm name, the original bid price that was received, recent cost increase, and this is an update based on the September 2nd meeting, the contingency, and the total. And 2 weeks ago at the September 2nd meeting, we were fully engaged with MAG Construction at the time. They were the low bid firm of that $1.24 million bid submittal. At the time, when I presented 2 weeks ago, they were explaining their desire to do the project, hold their number as the general contractor, but did absolutely make note that they were still working with some of their larger trade partners, specifically electric, plumbing, as well as the mason, where they're waiting for final numbers there. And it was that Friday, 4 days after the September 2nd meeting, where they came back with a formal letter explaining they had an increase of $137,000, in large part due to plumbing and electrical, holding their pricing through the spring. If council recalls, that was another important point of the MAG construction number. They came back to explain they would not be able to do the construction work in the fall. Instead, it would have to wait until spring. So with that, staff quickly transitioned to working with Ephraim Carlson Construction. What the MAG price increase effectively did, they were no longer the low apparent bidder. That became Ephraim Carlson Construction with a bid that was approximately, I'll say, $38,000 more than the original MAG construction number. Ephraim Carlson Construction came back very excited when we brought this to them. They were very eager to do this project. They said they could go this fall, no price increase. And we stressed the importance of this budget, the overage, and that attitude remained to say, if you can give us the green light as soon as tomorrow, pending city council decision this evening, they want to hit this. They want to hit this the ground running. They believe absolutely they'll get the project under roof before the snow flies. Might need to do some work in the interior of the building over the course of the winter, but definitely full project ready to go this spring. So that was a change since September 2nd that I wanted to point out, along with the 5% contingency. I think I believe I showed a 10% contingency originally on the 2nd. As we talked more with the architect, contractor, that 5% contingency number was unanimously agreed upon as having a lot of comfort there. When we talk engineering projects or building renovations, especially with old buildings, you're dealing with a lot of unknowns, things underground, things behind walls that you can't see. Starting with a new pallet, that's where the contractor, as well as Ephraim Carlson, we heard comments of, no, there's comfort with that starting new. And so with that, again, focusing in on the Ephraim Carlson construction total of the $1.342 $500 bid, which presents a budget overage of $392,500 over that $950,000. Just quickly, again, to review, after we receive bids of this nature that are significantly over budget, it immediately starts conversations of what exactly happened. And there's detailed review from the architects, city staff, but also we were fortunate where MAG Construction was very helpful in how they developed their numbers and what they were seeing. One frustrating component of this one overall was a lot of times we like to problem solve and find that item that, okay, this caused that specific overage. That wasn't the case here. Pretty much all trades were over budget, electric and plumbing specifically highlighted. And then lastly, one other important factor, when we received these 4 bids with these 4 contracting firms, all very good firms that do a lot of work of this nature, and we see the tight bid range, it also tells us that generally speaking, these general contractors all understood the design. In cases where we're seeing one contractor at $2 million, one at $700,000, that almost causes more concern of, okay, they're clearly not all understanding these same design parameters. Was not the case here. After we go through that process to try to understand more about how the bids came in, it then transitioned to value engineering or changing project scope. How can we save money to hopefully get back in line with our budget? There's a few examples listed there. I won't go through them all, but quite frankly, another frustrating process, because as we identified options, and the list was actually probably closer 8 to 10, and you're just seeing 4 there, it was not moving us within that $950,000 range. And as you can see, I'll focus on one of the big ticket items that we were originally hopeful on, the roof type. You're seeing multiple arches there. One cost reduction we talked about is one triangular arch, where it's not the most aesthetically pleasing, and quite frankly, it goes against some public comment we received. One of the concept options was more aligned with that, and it wasn't the most popular. So that was one of the challenges when staff looked at this, and it's one of the reasons we're not recommending any changes against that original bid scope this evening. We simply weren't getting closer to that number and one, we wouldn't get close to that number. Two, we were really impacting some of the public comments we received through the process. FY26 project savings. This was a chart that was again reviewed at the September 2nd meeting. One of the options was a bid award, which is before you this evening. And with that, we wanted to share where some projects currently are at within this fiscal year. So you're seeing on this table the project on the left, the very next columns, the FY26 budget, the total cost, which includes actual city council approved contracts, as well as all project contingencies. So I'll use the Deer Path Streetscape project, for example, there was a full $300,000 contingency award within that. These numbers before you account for that full $300,000 as if it were going to be used. Highly unlikely, not usually ever the case that we use all contingency, sure, some components here and there, but to be conservative in sharing those numbers, that was the approach. And for this one, we also included anything associated with the Deer Path Streetscape project to include the $250,000 business grant, potential monies there for available for those businesses. So we wanted to be all encompassing. And what it amounted to as we looked at these savings was just shy of $840,000. And so with that, before you this evening is that potential award of bid to Ephraim Carlson Construction and the amounts you see on the screen there. And again, just to highlight, if approved, we do have a contractor who's very eager here, who they do want to start the project. We actually have totally draft letters ready to go or not ready to go based on action this evening to send out to the neighbors, because if it is approved this evening, we're looking at a true construction begin September 22nd. So this upcoming Monday, a week from this evening. With that, I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Okay. I think I'll begin by asking you a few questions. Before the RFP was put out, was there an internal assessment or estimation based on prior projects that we've done, say, for instance, the Deer Path Athletic Facility buildings that have been built recently, using similar materials, as to what the cost of this project would be? What were we expecting when we put this out?
Sure. So, Mayor Tack, where that really started, even from a staff standpoint, just because we don't do building renovations of park pavilions of this nature, total new construction, we actually started reaching out to some architectural firms. And yes, we did have Deer Path Park where the north building came in, I want to say around 1.45. The south building was closer to 725,000, where we did look at that, but we ultimately relied on some of our architectural contacts to put together that preliminary estimate.
So I guess I'm not understanding the answer to that. Was there an internal estimate? And I get it, it's not what you do. Other people do this work, but was there an internal estimate when you put this out for an RFP of what you expected the bid range to be?
Very much so, yes.
And it was?
That at the time, because it was in 2023 when we first started it, it was actually closer to 750,000.
Okay. Fair enough. Are there other questions for Mr. Lockerfield? Alderman Walther.
Yeah, Jim, thanks for the presentation. Back in June of last year, the council approved the monies to pay the architect to conduct a study that would look at both renovation or reconstruction options and put forward cost benefits for each of those approaches. I looked through all of the meeting minutes, maybe thinking that I missed something. I don't ever remember seeing, and I couldn't find that that cost-benefit analysis came back to City Council for presentation. So could you please explain, did I miss something? Or if I didn't miss something, what that analysis foretold?
Sure, and you did not miss anything. That was a conversation that was not a city council discussion. Ultimately, if I recall correctly, it culminated in I want to say this right. The architect's rough order of magnitude estimate, that was one of the first steps that they did before diving into the development of some of the conceptual options. And ultimately, it was a conversation that I think was much more internal, Public Works working with, City Manager Wisha, Finance, where at the time, the delta between renovation and new construction, I just checked, was about $100,000. And the renovation process also further complicated where we had to orient the building and what we needed maintained, with utilities in the building, the bathroom infrastructure to the west, to the east, the maintenance garage. Essentially, renovation would have meant the open air shelter would have been in the center. And even at that time, without going through that formal public input session, we knew there was going to be a pretty significant desire to open it up to the west. So I think based on that review by the architect, staff's decision at the time was it did make sense, given that small delta, to go that new construction route.
All right, thank you for the answer to that question. Now that we've decided to build a new structure, can you explain to me where in the park will the new structure go? Will it go on the exact same footprint as the existing building? Will it be more to the east, the west, north? Could you please explain the location of the new building relative to the old building?
Absolutely. So the footprint in large part is staying the exact same, with the exception, I think, a small expansion to the east that needed to be accommodated for the mechanical room, but less than 10 feet, I believe.
Okay. Yes, please.
It would really be helpful to have a map or some sort of some diagram here. I don't know if that's possible to see.
It's probably so small, Alderman Weber, but that is the layout, and we did
Just for those of us who don't happen to frequent Waveland Park as often as some of the other ones, it would be just helpful for this type of presentation to have what the current is and then what the new is, like as a footprint.
Absolutely.
So we can.
So I'd like to follow up on your question, maybe. So assuming that both of the buildings are going to be basically on the same footprint, one of the things I saw while I was out there was this whole open air structure will be built on an area that's currently depressed. So there's a lot of landfill that needs to be done, a lot of soil needs to be brought in. Those foundations are going to have to be deeper. That has a cost associated with it. The fact that the building will be almost on the exact same footprint as the existing building, and we've chosen, and the architects has chosen to tear out the existing foundation and not reuse it, seems like a particular decision that was wasteful. So that's a couple comments on location.
And
would you please follow up?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would just say, one common theme in Public Works that we look at when we do these projects, because I completely understand the comment. I understand where that's coming from. With the building being a 1975 structure, that is something that, because I do remember it was a little bit of a conversation. I found older notes where putting new construction on 50-year-old concrete, even though it's enclosed, I think there were some concerns there. If 20 years, even 15, 20 years into the future, it started to show deterioration, that was a concern.
Okay. Mayor, may I continue? Or I can.
Tell you what, why don't we do this? Why don't we let some other aldermen ask a few questions, and then if yours aren't asked, we can come back to you.
Thank you.
Others?
No.
Alderman Powers.
Jim, thanks for the update. Going back to our workshop discussion, obviously I think we all had sticker shock, right? We're getting to a point where it's $1.3 million for a structure that largely is the same footprint. But I also think it is one of those circumstances where it becomes a real binary choice in terms of go, no go. And this park has not had a functional facility there since, I mean, I'll go so far as to say the last 20 years. The
Probably when it was originally built, in all honesty.
Beg your pardon?
Probably going back to when it was originally built.
Well, yeah, the bathrooms are functional, but the use of the internal space for the general public for any kind of storm or safety has been non-existent. The other comment I would make is some neighbors within this community are the ones that brought this up at a Alderman Coffee 2 years ago as to, hey, what if? What can we do with that structure? And is there any way that we can make that more family friendly, you know, for the people that frequent that park? So I realize that there's, you know, we can think and rethink this. I don't think it's going to help us save any money. And I obviously am in favor of it, having been involved in the project over the last couple of years. And I think this is one of those examples where we just need to, you know, pay the overage and move on.
Levert.
Thank you. So building on Alderman Walter's comment about the ground and the necessity to potentially build it up, would that be covered in the current projected spend by the bidder that we're looking to go with Ephraim? Or is that new news?
That is not new news. That's built into this project cost to include. So with a project of this nature, a civil site grading plan had to be submitted, reviewed, and one comment, just because I can speak a little bit more clearly in this area, is there are some sidewalks that are very minimal, but it's to connect the pavilion with the existing park, and those will be ADA compliant. So just to reassure you, Alderman Levert, that's accounted for.
I just brought that up as a justification for why the costs were maybe higher than what you would assume, because you physically can't see that when you look at the photo.
Okay, Alderman Notes.
I want to expand on Alderman Powers' point is if you look across the parks and the amenities we have in those parks across the city, I would be hard pressed to say that there's one less deficient than this is. And we are
More deficient.
there's nothing, that this is the most efficient structure of any park amenity we have in the city. And the residents that are John's and my neighbors in Ward 2 spend a lot of time in Waveland Park. And the upgrades to this facility are long overdue, completely recognize it doesn't seem like you get a lot of bang for your buck at a $1.3, $1.4 million number. But as Alderman Powers also noted, it's a go or no-go decision. The project is not going to get any slimmer than what we've got. This is about as basic of a structure as we could possibly design. It's not ostentatious, it's not elaborate, it's practical, it's functional, it's meeting the needs and the demands that were identified by the residents of what they wanted out of this facility. So again, nobody wants to be spending more than we psychologically had thought is practical for this. But at the end of the day, the park needs the facility upgraded. In the scope of things, the delta, $300,000 to $400,000 is not, in the magnitude of the things we undertake in the city, is not a big nut. Thank you.
Alderman Weber. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to ditto Alderman Notes and Alderman Powers. I think it's fair. The cost is something we can't, it's not going to get cheaper. And I think it's owed to the neighbors in Ward 2 to have a park that has a fully functioning pavilion. It's just time to do it. I agree with you guys. It's just time to build it.
Okay. Alderman Weber.
Thank you. So with full disclosure, I was not at the workshop 2 weeks ago to hear the lengthy conversation from all of you. but I have read through the notes, and I'm very interested to hear the comments tonight. A couple things stand out to me. The first is that how can we estimate a $600,000 savings on the Deer Path streetscape if the project's not over yet? Can you answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is aligned with those contingency comments where City Council approved X amount for the contract and X amount for contingency, where that $300,000 for contingency, I believe out of the $300,000, I don't want to misspeak, there's only been one request more in line with somewhere around the $20,000 range, and now we're getting close to the end of the project. And just history associated with public works projects, we don't use that full amount. But in any case, despite all that, that total cost does include the full $300,000 as if it were already used.
Okay.
And it has not been.
So when we go through these projects, and I'm not currently sitting on Public Works, but when we look at these different contingencies, and you're commenting about now we've lowered it to a 5% contingency because they feel that they can meet that versus, say, a 10 or 20%, which sometimes we approve for other projects. When I look at these total figures and we're looking just shy of $1 million in savings, which is great, but if our budgeting was a little bit tighter and streamlined, maybe that $840,000 could be used for other projects that are on that wait list. So instead of just saying, oh, well, we have this so we can spend it, I don't really love that approach as your finance, committee chair, number one. And number two, I'm not making these comments because I'm not in favor of a park upgrade. For the one who's up here that has children who are, in the park age group, I love having the parks that we have. They're amazing parks. It would make Lake Forest so special. And I, of course, want us to have the upgrades. I'm just kind of making these comments long-term as we look at these different things adding up over time, that we don't become a council that says, okay, it's another 100,000, it's another 300,000, it's another this and that. That we, generally speaking, are just looking a little bit tighter. As people are saying, and Nancy, we talked about it with our other projects. I'm not calling you out, but just when we look at, well, the school district has this increase, and this adds up and adds up and adds up. This is just another add up. So they all add up to something. My other comment is in regards to the design of the building itself. Could you just comment about the needs of the 2 bays of the garage?
Sure.
On the necessity of that, because I'm just not familiar.
And actually, before Jim jumps in on that, I'll speak a little bit to staff's capital planning processes and budget estimating. There may be a few on the council who recall, but we made a strategic decision about 4 or 5 years ago to bifurcate engineering, design, and construction over 2 years for the purpose of developing more accurate cost estimates. And I think if this one obviously was a miss, but I think if you look at the city's track record over the last few years in the totality of our capital plan, what's budgeted and what gets spent, I think we do a very good job in terms of our overall accuracy. It's not to say every project is going to be on an exact number. We're estimating 10 to 12 months out on all of these, and there's always market factors and dynamics, whether it's changes in material and commodity pricing, just the amount of volume of work that's out there that makes contractors either sharpen the pencils or be less inclined to bid, that are variables we simply can't control. We don't have a crystal ball. And so, I will say, I hear from the council this evening frustration that the bids came in higher than budget. That's something we would agree with, and we'll certainly do our own postmortems as to how we can continue to refine that. But I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that in totality, I think we do a very good job with this. And ultimately, I think it's a council conversation. Had the number been presented at 1.2 million last fall, is the sense that the council wouldn't have had an appetite to proceed with the project? Maybe, maybe not. That's for you guys to decide. I certainly don't recall in going through our budget workshop last fall and looking at the not funded list that there was a project of high priority to the council that didn't make it onto the funded list. I don't think this has crowded out another project. So just want to provide those comments, but also provide assurance to the council that we hear you with the frustration, and we'll continue to find ways to improve what is admittedly an inexact science.
Going
Other
back.
comments? Yes. Alderman Bothell.
So at that meeting, yeah, I was in total shock at the price. And my immediate thought then was, what if you went back to the residents and said, I know this is what you want, but $1.4 million or $1.35 million, would they say, we don't care, hey, this is what we want? Or would we go back to the drawing board and then say, you know what, we need to bring this in? The other thing, though, in talking with you and Jason, I get the feeling that this is not just happening to us. It's happening to other communities as well, where the sticker shock is really hitting hard. And my comment on that is that my concern is that this becomes the new norm out there, and that public work costs are going to be like this going forward, which is going to have a real impact on our ability to do things. Because actually, I will say that Elwha Park doesn't have anything like this. And hey, they'd love some bathrooms there. But I don't know, is it worth $500,000 for bathrooms? And Meadowwood Park doesn't have anything. They have 3 aluminum picnic tables. That's it. And, you know, would we justify spending $1.3 million for that, for a local neighborhood park? So I think it is binary. It is go or no go. It's something that's long been in the works and in progress. And I think you guys have turned over every stone and tried everything you possibly can. And I agree we need to move forward and get this done. Start next week. So thank you.
Other questions, comments? Alderman Levert.
Just one more. So I too was very hesitant when this was discussed at the beginning of the month at the workshop. Having put a lot of thought to it though, although I still struggle with the cost and the overage that was not really expected, I do believe that our neighborhood parks are really, really important to our residents and a way to show the pride of our community for each of the different areas of Lake Forest. So I will be voting in favor of this tonight, but I hope this doesn't become the norm where we have to wrangle with how to accommodate overages with requests. So thank you.
Alderman Walther.
Thank you. I want to follow up on what Alderman Levert just said. If this project were coming before me today on day one, and I was told we were going to build a new structure, I would include a lot of the elements that you showed in the photograph of this structure, if you want to pull it up there. I visited almost every park in the city today that has a pavilion. Actually, I think I did visit every park in the city that has a pavilion, including the beach. And things on that structure that are consistently present in all, except for Deer Path, are exposed beams and timbers of architecturally significant wood members, a water table, stone elements or split block elements, stone and split block or split block used for the fireplace. The bathrooms are large and spacious to serve both the needs of our citizens with disabilities as well as to serve as an area of refuge during storms. And so if this were to come to me today with a $1.2 or $1.3 million budget, I would vote for it because of those aspects, and it's consistent with what's expected in all of our other parks in the city and consistently expected by the members of the public. Some of the reservations I've cited already tonight are offered as constructive input to your processes. I do want to follow up on your comment about budgeting. I oftentimes highlight the ability of staff to create a budget and stick to the budget. There's a knowledge within the department heads that if you have so much money for paper clips and so much money for staples, you're not allowed to switch and swap. You're told to manage your budget as presented at the beginning of the year. And so, managing our budget as allocated should be an important parameter of running a fiscally sound city. So, with all that said, I am going to vote in favor of it. I am going to vote in favor, and I do appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Are there other thoughts, comments? I'm going to ask a quick question because it's something that I don't know. I look at this structure and are we required, is there an option for these sorts of structures to have remote built structures shipped here and assembled on site that aren't from Illinois companies or contractors? I'll give you an example. This structure screams timber frame to me. I've seen these in other cities where they put them up and, you know, they're built off site, shipped, assembled on site, and then they're finished by local contractors. And I know for a fact that the cost of doing that with structural insulated panels, et cetera, can be significantly less, especially for these type of open structures, than built on-site projects. Is that an option for us at all?
And if I may, one specific process, and Mayor Tech, you brought it up earlier with Deer Path Park. Those were buildings that were actually absolutely considered as part of that process. One thing we quickly learned early on with that, there were numerous concerns, and we had a professional design firm different from this project, as well as a construction management firm helping us guide that project at the time. Both firms independently recommended against it from an aesthetic and maintenance procedure, and the cost delta as too. I do remember those kind of conversations pretty distinctly when those building costs started to escalate and started to look at different options. I know that might not fully answer the question, but that is an example.
I'll actually piggyback on that. I'll probably defer to the city attorney, but my understanding of prevailing wage law, we can purchase materials elsewhere, and for most of our projects, they're not necessarily locally sourced. I believe all labor associated with the project is subject to prevailing wage, but.
That's correct. No matter where we get the materials, the labor that we're gonna hire to build that structure, even if it's a prefabricated structure, still has to be prevailing wage.
Prevailing wage in Illinois or?
Correct.
At prevailing wage here and unfortunately in the area.
Okay, and again, the only reason I ask that is that it seems to me that for, you know, a tremendous amount of the construction that I'm seeing these days is you know, pre-manufactured buildings, you know, structural panels and things that are shipped to site and assembled, and obviously they do it for cost and issues. And so I just think that going forward, especially for these sorts of things, if that's an option, we ought to always sort of look at that potentially. And I will tell you, I always question a contractor who tells me, oh, don't do that, the quality's lousy, you know, it's this, it's that, because I will tell you that from what I know about it, I happen to own a timber frame home. The quality of that is way better than anything I see being built around here on site. And it's, so I just think it's something we need to start thinking about because there's nothing complex about this structure. I mean, this seems to me like the simplest structure in the world that could be designed out of, you know, prefabricated material shipped to site. And if you have to, you know, pay somebody prevailing wage to sort of operate the crane and drop the materials on, fine. I just think we should look at it. Anyway. Yes.
I'm sorry, but City Manager Wisha had jumped in and didn't, if Mr. Locke, if you could please just answer the garage question for me. I'm not trying to drag this out.
No,
really,
I remember.
Thank you.
So Alderman Weber, the garage. Believe me, that was one of the first things at the top of my list when we got these bids, and get rid of it, remove it, let's save that money. as I learned more about that and what it meant, and it was a discussion point actually at the September 2nd workshop too, it really is almost more of an economies of scale discussion where I showed on this slide the maintenance garage reduction being only $10,000. Really, the bulk of that savings comes from the garage door itself specifically. The layout, and again, also connected to one of your earlier comments about having a larger picture, it would be easier to see this, but the mechanical room to the north there, it's kind of that long, skinny, elongated block out there, that has to be with the building. We needed space for the mechanicals, for those bathrooms, for heating and air. And utilizing the space just beneath it to throw up, walls to build that out, the architect said, yeah, there's really not much savings just to eliminate it. Otherwise, we'd have an oddly shaped building. That's one line.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No. Okay, is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the council on this matter? Yes? Please feel free to step up and state your name and address if desired.
We'll use my nickname, Polly Positive. And I live somewhere here. How's that? Anyway, so just a couple things from a real estate construction perspective. I do know that on both the commercial and the residential side, builders are not using brick as much anymore because the costs are prohibitive. So we're seeing a lot of construction with hardy board, which is it's a frame, but it's a concrete mixture frame. So that's one thing that I think may have driven up some of the costs. I don't know all the split face and all that. I don't know all the components in here. But I don't recall hearing that we reached out to the community to sponsor a piece of it or sponsor something here and there. Or is that something that a project like this can support? So if we haven't, maybe we could consider something. And I agree, it's very expensive because you can build a brand new house with all kinds of bells and whistles for 1.2 or less. So I'm seeing it in the area. So, but again, what we have to do for ADA compliant, what we have to do for non-retail, non-residential construction is a lot more expensive, as I think someone pointed out at the workshop. So those are just my 2 cents.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, before I ask for a motion on this, I'm just going to sort of make a summary comment, and that is, I know that the members of the City Council spent a tremendous amount of time thinking about this. These numbers, when presented, were very disturbing. The 40% over budget estimate was really sort of a shock, and some of that's because we've become so used to projects where the proposals are coming in under budget. That's happened quite a bit over the past several years, and you sort of get a little bit numb to that. We've sort of raised concerns about why are all these things coming in under budget? Is that raise questions about our estimating process internally, that we're overestimating everything. Obviously, that didn't happen here, but there's a great appreciation of all the council members, of all of the work that has been put into this by staff. So I don't want anybody to take any of the questions asked as personal criticism. It is really an attempt to understand, and by discussing it in public session, to allow the public to see and understand that these folks who represent you really take their positions very seriously, and we don't take your tax money and spend it without serious consideration. So I just want to leave it at that, and then at this time I will ask for a motion to approve award of a bid to Ephraim Carlson Construction for the Waveland Park Pavilion project in the amount of $1,277,500 to include a 5% contingency in the amount of $65,000 for a grand total cost of $1,342,500. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Notes,
Aye.
Alderman Powers,
Aye.
Aye.
Alderman Bothfeld,
Aye.
Alderman Weber,
Aye.
Alderman Walter,
Aye.
Alderman Novit,
Aye.
Alderman Clemmons.
Aye.
8 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Very good. So at this time, are there any other items that the alderman would like to comment on? Hearing none. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2, parentheses C and 5, purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, and 5 ILCS 120/2, parentheses C and 11, pending litigation. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Certainly, Alderman Powers,
Aye.
Alderman LeVert,
Aye.
Alderman Bothfeld.
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Walter.
Aye.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
Alderman Clemmons. Alderman Notes.
Aye.
8 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Okay, at this time, we'll be adjourning into executive session. At the completion of the executive session, there will be no further business.